All right, well, good morning, everyone. I just want to welcome everyone to Insight, and today we'll be talking about InfoCenter, and we'll be discussing what that is and how you could potentially benefit from it. My name's Adam Kurtz, and again, just welcome to Insight. This is our bi-weekly or bi-monthly webinar series, and again, today's topic is we're going to talk about InfoCenter. We'll be talking about what exactly it is, how to use it, and what you should be thinking about in terms of using it, how it can help your migration to the latest version of Stratum, version 6, and then we'll go through a quick demo of some screens of the different views that come with the InfoCenter product. But InfoCenter, if you're running our product and you're running Stratum today, you may have had situations where with users, asking some questions, or maybe you have some questions about your users, about, what it is that they're looking at, and are they looking at it at all, or are they using Viewer at all? What views are they running? Those types of things. So, essentially, what kind of data do you have in Stratum? What the views that are being used, obviously. What dimensions and DSLs are being hit, when you got your planner users using the Stratum product and hitting the Stratum database. And it even goes as far as your master file records, how many entities of records do you have within your master file files. So you've got a lot of things that you might be questioning about your environment within Stratum, and you really have nowhere to go to get some of these answers. So that's where InfoCenter was kind of thought up as, in terms of creating a separate environment, so you could have an environment that would be able to help you answer some of those questions about your environment. This also would provide an information management workbench where you can easily get to this information, analyze it, and then certainly manage your environment accordingly. So it's a very helpful environment application that will allow you to really rein in your users and your views that you're using today, and get a good feel for where you're at. Certainly it includes information on view usage. So if you have Viewer today and you're running Viewer and you have a lot of users using Viewer, then certainly this will help you identify what's going on with your Viewer product. But it'll also tell you a lot more information about your Stratum environment. It tells you where your dimensions are populated for each one of the categories that you're using within Stratum. Answers a lot of questions about DSLs if you're running Planner today. It gives you drill down paths of your Planner users. So it not only gives you information about Viewer certainly, but it gives you information about Planner and your master file information. If the databases that are involved, this is basically like running a separate environment of Stratum. So essentially it's the same technology where you would have a central database, just like you have today with a Stratum database. You're going to have an InfoCenter database that basically will hold all of the logging information that we gather for this information to provide these different user counts and view counts. So again, you would have this concept of having an InfoCenter database that would serve as your Stratum database. You would still run your server code so that you could extract and get that data loaded into your InfoCenter tables. So again, same technology that you're running today with Stratum. And this all runs on SQL Server, by the way. So, you have that. And then certainly you'd have a separate user interface, a separate viewer interface to get to these views and analyze this data. So certainly you would have, a viewer database and a connector database involved so that you could run this separate environment. Okay? So you have, this is also designed for multiple environments. So if you're running more than one Stratum environment, I know some of the customers that we deal with do, certainly this will accommodate that. So you can extract data from and web logs for those different environments and get that into a single repository, into a single InfoCenter environment. Okay, so that's available as well. The different dimensions and measures that are available. This is actually kind of cutting off a little bit here. there you have it in terms of the data model. So you've got all kinds of different ways you can slice and dice through the data. Certainly you can see the data by the different categories and DSLs for planner and by dimension. You've got viewer, all kinds of dimensions that are dealing with your viewer environment. So you can see all your user IDs for viewer and what views they're hitting, what measures they're using, what level and group they belong to, what role has been assigned to them, the different types of views that they're running, and even down to the view cube that they're running the views against. In addition, you can see the day of week, the period of day that they're using the product. Planner user would apply to the planner usage product or category. Planner drill down path and environment. So you can actually start with the environment level and see all the usage counts for each one of your environment aggregated at the environment level. So that's kind of cool too. And then you can drill down in each environment and do some analysis within each environment. So that's kind of gives you an idea of the dimensions that are available within the InfoCenter product. And then the categories and the measures that are available. So for each one of your categories, as we can see, we've got a dimension members category, and that's going to give you your master file counts. So you've got a set of counts for your planner product, and then a different set of counts for your viewer product. And they certainly might differ depending on how you load your master file information. DSL dimension, so you can get a good feel for your planner users and what dimensions and DSLs they're hitting. Planner usage, that's your planners people out there, and how many times they're running views and how many records get returned when they run the view, so you can get a good feel for the amount of data that they're asking for. You have a different category called record counts, and this gives you all the different header and detail record counts for your Stratum databases. So it's a great tool to manage disk space and size, so you have a good clue as to how big your environment really is, how big your tables are. And that's good to know from an administrative perspective. It gives you a better idea of what to expect when you run certain jobs. It's always a good thing to know, the size of these tables and how big this thing really is. And probably the most popular category, viewer usage. Many of you are running viewer today and probably have a lot of users out there. So certainly this is a very popular category of the product. If we look at it and how this thing's installed, as you can see, there's different ways that you can do this. You could have your planner folks. Obviously, we're gathering data from the Stratum database. So, Stratum might be on its own server. Viewer, it might be on a separate Windows server. So again, this is your Stratum database, where it might be on an iSeries or on a SQL server. Viewer's installed on its own server. And sometimes these are one server. If you have people out there that are running viewer on the same box as their Stratum server using SQL Server. So that certainly could be just one server. And then InfoCenter has its own environment, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on its own machine. You could actually put it on the same machine as viewer, and that's typically what we do anyway. Okay, and so we're getting data, we're extracting metadata, user data from these databases. We're getting, we set it up for a nightly load so that it runs every night, and this occurs basically after all the Stratum database and viewer updates are complete. So it's not as critical, but certainly you can run it whenever you want, essentially, and it'll stay fresh every day. So and then once that's loaded, obviously you have a separate interface for your InfoCenter environment that you would use to get to these views. Okay. So it's a pretty simple environment, and it's just another separate silo, if you will, of the Stratum product. So how do we get this to work? Well, when users are out there running viewer views, each time they do that, IIS, which is the technology, Microsoft's Internet Information Services, that runs the website. So there's actually a logging feature that we turn on so that whenever the viewer users are running their views, we know what they're doing. We know what views they're trying to hit and how many times they try to hit it. So, that is turned on, it's running 24/7, so you can actually see where users are running views, at midnight or at 3 a.m., so, or if you might have a global instance where you have people, people coming in from Europe, so you have a real good feel for when these traffic times are going on, and it really gives you a good feeling for, maintenance and different areas and times of the day that you might be able to do some maintenance processes. So it's a really helpful tool. And what this does is it traps that logging data into temporary working tables so that we can, clean the data up, take some of the web log, irrelevant data out of it, do any necessary transformations to the data. Once that's scrubbed, then we go ahead and take it into the InfoCenter database by using our regular load processes. Nothing really spectacular there, just using the same thing that we use today, within any of your Stratum databases. So that's just your regular server load processes that occur. On the planner side, it's a little different. You have to turn on the login query for your different users that you want to trap this information for. So you actually have to decide, which users you want to trap that information, that usage information for. That's actually stored in a table. Once you turn that on and save that in their user profile, that information gets stored into a table within the Stratum database, the SDCSIL10 table. And that's what we use to import info into the InfoCenter database for your planner usage, all your different planner users. Okay? And that's essentially how that works. So, if you're not getting any data and there's nothing in the IL10 table, the SDCSIL10, it's probably because you don't have any users that are turned on for the login query. So, and that's done again and I'll show you in the demo where you can turn that on. And so why, again, I don't think I need to have, really, pound on this too much. I think you understand, what exactly, what benefits this does give you, obviously. It just really gives you a better feel for what's going on in your environment and who's using it and when are they using it and the different times of the day that they're actually using it. And it gives you a really good feel for some of your top views, so you can have a good feel for how many views that you can delete or potentially get rid of. Again, more information about how much data you have out there in your tables, where is all that data, what categories are they stored in, different viewer views that are being used, where planner users drill to, it gives you a good feel for the drill down paths so you can tune those accordingly. Are your master file data counts changing over time? What dimensions are not being used? That's a really good one to know. So, you might be coming up on the limit of 100 dimensions, and they become a more valued commodity, obviously. So you can really have a good feel for which ones are being used for your planner users, and that might tip you off in terms of which ones to get rid of. What different data summary levels are not being used? Again, on the planner side, these are tuning tables that you're allowed to create, and this will allow you to manage that. Obviously get rid of the ones that aren't being used. If you're thinking about migrating to Stratum 6.0, this is also a really good step to take, is to get InfoCenter in and running as soon as you can. The reason for that is that it'll really give you a better feel for what views that you want to migrate over to the new environment. So this will really give you a count of, okay, these are my top 100 or 200 views, and I want to make sure that these are available. Obviously, they're very popular, so you certainly want to identify these views so that you can either take them and put them on the list for migration, and then the rest you can decide what you want to do. If you want to just leave them out and finally just delete them, or just leave them out of the migration, and then obviously they won't come along for the ride. So the InfoCenter is definitely a very fundamental first step that you want to take to get this installed, so that you make more intelligent decisions about what views that you want to migrate from your 5.1 environment, your old viewer environment. So if you're thinking about moving to Viewer 6 and you want to get a good feel for what views you want to make available in that new environment, again, InfoCenter is a great way to do that. Okay, so that's it for content, and let's take a look at InfoCenter Live in action where I've got it up and running. So again, you would have your own viewer environment separate from your other viewer environments to analyze your InfoCenter information. Well, let's take a look at some of the metadata views that you get. If we click on DSL dimensions, let's see what this view provides us. We'll go ahead and let this environment wake up a little bit. Okay, this is kind of a cool view. You'll see that you've got the environment A. So if I had different environments, it would be prefaced with A, B, C, that type of concept. So, and these are my dimension numbers and their descriptions going across on the horizon here. And then I've got my DSLs down here on my rows. And where we see a green indicator indicates where that dimension is being used for each one of these DSLs. So it's really helpful to, in terms of all the DSLs, especially your low levels, to see what dimensions are actually populated. Certainly I can print this out or download it to Excel so I can print on one page. And it gives me a nice visual of all my DSLs that I have in my database and which dimensions are resident within those DSLs. So that's a nice feature to have. It really gives you a good feel for all the DSLs that you have out there and which dimensions are being used for those DSLs. DSL stands for a data summary level. It's just one of our acronyms that we gave it. And it's just basically a table, a series of, it's a header and detail table, and this tells you how many what dimensions are involved in those tables. We take a look at planner and viewer dimension members. This gives us our dimension member counts. So for viewer, there's 24 companies defined. For the planner members, there's 8. Now this comes from our demo database, so obviously that doesn't make a lot of sense. You probably should have, this actually should concur, I would think. You would have company 1, you would have 1 or 2 entities, and it would be the same going across. So again, some of the inconsistencies are simply due to our demo data. But the cool thing about this is that you could go to customer level, and have a good feel for how many, you're going to see thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records here that you're sold to and shipped to and your product levels. And it's going to give you a warm and fuzzy in terms of how many customers you have, at least in your master file records, and what these numbers look like. And as they grow throughout the year, you'll have you can actually see it month by month. Actually, I would recommend that you run this by month because that gives you a better feel for what's going on. That actually looks better. That was aggregated up to the year. This, like I said, this actually should be viewed at the monthly level. So you might want to look at current month to at least get a feel for how many entities you have. And again, I would think your companies would concur in your divisions and whatnot. So the planner record count gives us the record counts by the different tables. This is actually quite cool. So if you're familiar with the Stratum database and its architecture, you can see by the different categories and the DSLs that are assigned to those categories, the header and record counts for those tables. So I think this is quite nifty. And this will really help your back-end administrators so they have a good feel for how many DSLs. So for actual sales, I can see I've got a series of high-level and intermediate DSLs, and then my low-level 999, which obviously, is quite large with millions of records in them. And that's pretty typical. That's pretty normal. And typically, the higher up the DSLs go, the less records they have in them, which, again, aids in the performance of the planner product. So this is really nice, I think, for the back-end administrators. Okay. I think that's it in terms of the metadata. I think this is the same thing as the dimension member count that we just saw earlier. Yeah, it is. So, okay, and it's just for viewer only. All right, so that's your metadata views, which are kind of cool. Let's take a look at the viewer usage views, or you can run views like, what are my top 10 views today, or currently, for my current year. So let's run that and see what we got. Okay, so now I've got a nice view here that indicates all the different my top 10 views, essentially, based on the viewer usage count for 2012. This is actually, interestingly enough, this is data coming from our demo database, so, you know, it makes sense. Some of these views actually, you know, we show a lot of viewer 6.2 views now because we're selling the input capabilities. So we can drill in on that. I guarantee it's going to be Frank running the majority of these. Oh, it's actually Rip doing quite a bit as well. So it's kind of cool where you can actually drill in on the view and figure out who's using it and see what levels they're running. I think Frank's a security administrator. No, he's just a view administrator, so he's been locked out a little bit there. And we can go in on Rip and see what he's doing. He's only a view administrator as well. So, all right, and then we can go back to view and dive into another one of my top 10 views. That's really cool. I really like, and the graph looks great in terms of showing your top 10 views and all the usage counts there. So, if you want to come at it at a different angle, if you can come in and see all your views and drill to the different measures that are resident within that view, and now you got to get a feel for all the different measures that are part of that view. So now not only do you know what views they're looking at, but you know what kind of data they're looking at within that view. Okay. And again, you can drill that to okay, well, who's looking at baseline, who's looking at these measures within that view ID, and you can get a good feel for the different viewer usage counts of that. So. Okay, so we have that, and then you've got the viewer views analysis, again with the starting at the viewer ID level. So we can come in and I'll drill in and on myself here, I can get a good feel for what the user group that I belong to. I'm a part of the demo group, and then here are all the views that I run. And some of these are, as you can see, test views and whatnot that I use in the test environments. Let's see what other levels they have in here. We can keep going down here on some of this. I'm going to open up View Explorer, and we're going to take a look at some of the levels that are involved that are also available here within the InfoCenter environment. I wanted to see what day of week I'm running views. I can bring that in, get a good feel for, you know, Friday seems to be a busy day for me, probably because I do a fair amount of my demos on Friday. For insight. I can even go to the period of day. Well, Friday's my more popular day. What about the times, right? So we've got all kinds of different, morning seems to be a pretty busy time for me, so. Pretty cool. So you can get a good feel all the different levels that are available. You can get a good feel for what's going on with these different types of views. Okay. Day of week, period of day, I think we know that. On the planner side, you've got planner usage, so you can get a good feel for what users are using the planner product and how many times they've run their views and how many records are being returned from those views that are being run within your planner environment. If I drill in on myself here, I can see these are the DSLs that I'm hitting. So the administrators are aware of what tables that you're actually hitting. And we can also add in more information. I'll add in another couple of dimensions here so we can see what category in DSL that what category I'm hitting. And then what my drill down path is. Let's get that. Okay, so I bring those in. Let's see for Frank. Let's see what his drill down path is on some of these runs. See, here's what the drill down path looks like. So on this run here, he likes to drill from company to ship to, or I'm not sure what 16 is, but that's your dimension numbers. So it tells you what dimension they start out at and then where the drill down path that they end up taking. And if I sort this in a descending fashion, I should be able to see some of the higher run views and probably the more popular drill downs that he's doing. So that's great. For planner users, I think that's invaluable to have, so you really have a good feel for what, what dimensions they're hitting, what types of data they're analyzing. Let's take a look at that, actually. We know they're hitting the 999, but what category are they hitting on that 999? It's actual sales, so that makes a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, I can just take this back and look at the different categories that he's analyzing. So now I know on the planner side, all the different categories that they're analyzing. And obviously sales seems to be a very popular category for Brank here. So, all right. So pretty short session today in terms of InfoCenter. It's a pretty confined data model, but yet provides a lot of information and very valuable stuff. I want to open up the lines for any questions or comments. So I'm going to take you off mute.
All callers are unmuted.
And you are currently unmuted, so any questions or comments?
Hey, Adam, I have a couple. It's Lori.
Okay.
First one, on the planner usage count, is that how many times that they use the view, or does that count how many times they refresh the view?
It's how many times they will refresh the view.
Okay. Here's what I'm looking for, and I'm not sure if there's a way to build it within here. I want to see the last date that they used it, because I have a metric. If they haven't used it in 90 days, they lose their access.
I see.
But I also only want the count of days, period, that they used it, not the count of times that they refreshed it.
Right. So, and we could do that, although it's not shipped with the standard product, so you'd want to make that clear up front before we implement it, so that we
Okay.
probably what I would end up doing is loading that into a daily structure, because I think all these categories come monthly. And if we get into a daily structure, that would give us more capability, probably an easier way to get to that.
Is there any way, for now, it may be there, that it at least gives me the last day that they used it?
Wow. I don't think so. I mean, if it's a monthly category, that's going to be difficult to do.
Okay.
I would say, that's, if you want to get down to, what was the final day that they ran this view?
Okay, what if they haven't used it in the last 3 months?
If they haven't used it in the last 3 months, you could set up a view that would have, like, current month, last month, and 2 months ago.
Okay.
And then, and then I would set up on my rows, I'd put all my users on it.
Okay. And that count is going to be how many times
They run or refreshed a planner or view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if any are zero in the two, okay.
And you could set up an alert even still and have it just email you a list of accounts, that are not using it.
Okay. Because right now I'm doing something off in Crystal Reports to get all my data to support this, but
right. Yeah.
it'd be so much easier.
No, you should be able to do that here.
Okay.
At least for the 3 months. If you're already at a monthly level, then that certainly would be doable.
Yeah. If I'm looking at 90 days, I'd just convert it to the last 3 months.
Yep.
Okay.
That would work. Good question. Anybody else? Any other questions? Any comments? Don't be shy. This is our last InfoCenter of 2012, or our last Insight webinar of 2012, I should say. So, coming up on the last session. And by the way, we wanted to send out a questionnaire to all you Insight regulars to ask you for input on more sessions for next year. So look for that. We'll be sending that out soon, and we'd like to ping the audience base out there so that we can accommodate any requests of topics that you would like covered. So make sure you do that, because we're actually trying to put together our first quarter curriculum together for 2013.
I'm sure now.
What's that?
I was going to say, I'm sure now that I'm using it and I'm understanding it and flying through it, I'll have a lot to say.
Oh, for sure.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, please do, and especially all you fresh minds out there that are using it. What areas of the product that you think that you could benefit more from, more education from, that type of thing. So we want to hear from you, and we just want to make sure that we're, designing these classes that provide the most value and benefit for you as possible. So, well, okay. If there's no other questions or comments, first of all, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it for slicing out a little part of your Friday to come learn with me. I wish everyone a happy holiday season and a safe holiday season. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you in 2013. Thanks,
all right, thanks, Adam.